Hey, what's good, everybody? I'm Nick Swisher, and welcome back to episode 4 of the Nick Swisher Show. Man, hey, I'm so happy to see you guys this week. I hope everybody had an amazing weekend. Want to send a little love out to all the veterans this weekend. Listen, for all the men and women who fought to keep our country free and safe, cannot thank you guys enough. We would not have anything that we have in this world and here in the United States if it wasn't for your service. So I want to know that you guys are loved. Thank you so much. This past weekend was y'all's. Speaking of awesome weekends, man, the girls and I were lucky enough to go to the Reba McEntire concert, which was absolutely electric. Let me tell you, one of the coolest things on the planet is being friends with Reba McEntire, the queen of country music, bro. She is one of the nicest, kindest, most energetic, loving individual you would ever want to be around. She was absolutely amazing. You know, my daughters haven't seen Auntie Reba in maybe 3-4 years, but to be able to see them, see each other and embrace, and it's almost like they never skipped a beat seeing each other. And also my man Rex, yo, bro, it was so awesome meeting you. There's a reason Reba has that humongous smile on her face, and that's because you put it on there, brother. Continue to keep being you, Rex. It was a pleasure to meet you, my man. You are absolutely amazing. Listen, I want to give a little shout out to some of our amazing friends who have written into the show, tell us how much they love it or how much it's helped them out in some way. Yo, want to send a little love to my guy Sean in NYC. Yo, what's up, Sean? How you doing, baby? My girl Abby out in Arizona, going through a little tough times right now, but that's okay, sweetheart. We here at the Nick Swisher Show, we got your back, dude, and thank you for listening. My guy John out in Massachusetts. Oh, shit, we got some Red Sox fans in here. Talk to me, John. Hell yeah, man. Much love to you, bro. And lastly, my girl Zoe in Ohio. I know things haven't been well for you over the last 6 months, but I promise you they will continue to keep getting better. We've got some amazing people that are going to teach you a little something. Thank you so much for all your support. Oh, also OHIO, huge win for the Buckeyes this past weekend against Indiana. Not a huge win, but it was nice to see them blow out a team like we know that they're capable of doing. Finally, right? And also, too, make sure you check out the Nick Swisher Show on Instagram. Keep up with all the latest and greatest. Listen, and also continue to keep putting those DMs in and continue to keep telling us everything you guys know, right? We love hearing that feedback, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. We're only going to get better at the things we suck at from listening to you guys, right? So thank you so much for all that. Continue to keep coming in, right? Lastly, I also want to send our deepest condolences here at the Nick Swisher Show to the family and friends of the pilots who were involved in the tragic air show accident the other day at the Dallas Air Show. It was hard to see, and I just want to send a lot of love out there to you guys. I know you guys are taking this right on the chin. We've also got some house cleaning we've got to do today. We've noticed that the first few episodes may have gone over a little bit in time, but hey, listen, we're working on that. I'm starting to get a little less chatty, but at the end of the day, this podcasting thing is still coming on. So we're going to work to shorten those up so each one of y'all can catch this episode on your commute to work, to school, to practice, wherever you're headed from. We want to make sure we get you all the information we can. The first couple of episodes went maybe an hour to an hour and 10. We're going to try and shorten those down to 40 to 48 minutes. I think that's going to be the sweet spot. So I hope everybody continues to keep listening, continue to keep sending those DMs in, and I can't thank you enough for all the support. You know what? Speaking of information, let's jump right into this episode. The Swishermation for today, episode 4 is, if you build it, he will come. Now, I know that's a quote from the Bible, but it's also a quote from one of my favorite movies, Field of Dreams. And it's absolutely electric because it talks about building something and people will come to it. My guy, Joe Maddon, talks about culture a lot, talks about creating environments where people aren't afraid to fail. You know what? I don't want to get into this thing too much. My guy, Brett, roll that interview for everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have one of my idols. Someone who I have admired for years and have never had the opportunity to tell this man face to face what I feel about him. When it's my turn to become a manager at the major league level, I can promise you I will take away so many things from this man, and we are so blessed to have him here with us today. I could not be more happy. This man is a 3-time Manager of the Year recipient. Not 1, not 2, but 3 times. He is a 2-time World Series champion. This man has won over 1,300 games in his managerial career. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the manager with the most swag in the history of Major League Managers, my guy, Mr. Joe Maddon. Joe, what's good, baby?
Thank you very much. That's been a great show. Thank you. That's outstanding. Please. How about we met? Remember the time we met at the Bengi Winery
Yes,
in
it was so
Napa.
funny.
I mean,
I
that's the
was
first time I
laughing.
really had a conversation with you. I think it was at Bengi.
Yes, yes, because I think most people would think the first time we ever met and got the chance to spend some time together was probably in between the lines on a baseball field, but it was not. Listen, we met in Napa Valley. I know how big
Right.
you are into wine. You are a wino for sure. Are you a sommelier yet?
Not yet, not yet, but I am. I am drinking wine. I'm really into the Spanish wines again, and I found some really good stuff. My recommendation right now is from Panea. It's called 17, like Shohei Ohtani. The number
Sure.
17 on the bottle, like $50 a bottle. I think it's a Tempranillo. My God, is it good? So don't walk, run to get some 17. It's that good.
Yes, sir. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, Skip, I never had the chance to play for you personally, but I played against you hundreds of times from across the line, man. And there was just something about you, man. Like you just knew what your guys needed. You got every ounce out of your guys, man. You got the best out of everybody. I like to consider you a Magic Johnson, right? You just make everybody around you better, right? So I guess for myself, right, someone who has aspirations to be a manager at the big league level before, like what did you do? Do you dig into these guys a little more, right? Do you pay attention to the little things? Is it about the personalities, the communication? From the moment you started coaching at the professional level, man, you had something that other people don't, and other people still don't have. What's the secret sauce?
Hey, listen, I appreciate it, man. It really started in the minor leagues for me. I really had the benefit of a long minor league career as a coach, manager, and instructor. That really was like the
Sure.
bedrock of all of this stuff. So I'm in like Mesa, Arizona. I'm in instructional leagues. I'm managing in Idaho Falls, Salem, whatever. And while you're there, you're making a lot of mistakes. You're making a lot of mistakes. You're trying different things. You really screw up. I had some really bad years in Midland, Texas, where I totally came out of character and screwed up, meaning that I learned a lot. I probably learned more in Midland, Texas than I learned from anywhere else. And then I've had great mentors. I mean, I've had outstanding mentors. And also, I think maybe the most important thing that happens is that you learn from the people that you never want to be like. You never
Yes.
want to do it that way. I would never do anything that way. So I mean, I think for the most part, yes, my teaching abilities, what I teach and how I teach it, tremendous mentors, great coaches. I was very fortunate. However, I also ran into a bunch of guys I would never want to be like, and I do believe that has a lot to do with your success because um, you I probably am considered a player's manager, but I've always wanted to treat others like I would like to be treated myself. It really comes down to that. And then on top of that, just being yourself. So I took chances, whether it like something as simple as a dress code. I mean, just breaking the dress code barrier was such a big thing because all the old dudes who were badge dressers are making dress codes. So that was the part that really always fractured me was that I have to wear clothes based on the way that dude dresses because I have to wear a collared shirt as an example. So stuff like that. It comes down to the theme road trips. It comes down to zoos on the field. But the point is, you have enough pressure coming at you from so many different directions on a daily basis. My job is to lighten the load a little bit while staying within certain parameters. I swear, I mean, my learning ground was like I just described, all these different places. I was able to try things away from the maddening crowd.
Yeah.
I made my mistakes. I saw what I didn't want to do, and eventually became this.
I mean, just tell people at home, and I think the people that are listening here, right? And I try and tell these people all the time, but I guess hearing it from another side definitely makes more sense. Is you're never really learning anything in life when you're kicking ass, when you're just
No,
dominating on an everyday basis. It's just like you're just living, right? You're just going about it. You're never really learning anything until you start getting your ass kicked, until you start hitting that wall where you're just like, I have no idea where to go. What am I supposed to do? But I feel like for myself, from some of the darkest times of my life, have come some of the brightest lights that I've ever had. And it sounds like some of the same instances for you as well.
yeah, the best part of all of this is the struggle. I absolutely believe that. I used to tell my kids that all the time. Don't run away from the struggle. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, there's times that you really doubt yourself and you might even consider wanting to do something else, but you got to really appreciate the struggle. And I'm really grateful, fortunate that I didn't get my managerial job till I was 51 years old.
Right.
I had all
Totally.
this opportunity to work my way through. And again, I had all this opportunity to observe how I would not do it, how I would do it. You've talked about it earlier, the building of relationships, the creating of trust, the exchange of ideas, and then once we're on that same page, we can be constructively critical of one another, which is where real teaching and stuff happens. That's where greatness occurs. If you're afraid of the tough conversation, if you're afraid to open up to that person you're working with, it's just not good. It's not going to happen. Both of you are both going to fall short at some point. There's things I want to tell you. There's things you want to tell me, but we haven't established a relationship to the point where we can comfortably. Because if you don't get to that point, there's pushback. There's not, the other side's not really listening, and then you never get on the same page. That's where I start. I mean, we're talking, what you mentioned earlier, when I went to each organization I went to, that was the premise I worked from. And I'll give you the full Monty. It started with Gene Mock in 1983 or 4.
Sure.
I'm running the instructional league, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm running the instructional league. And Gene walks up to me one day and he says, "You've created a great atmosphere around here." And Gene, thank you. And I had no idea what he was talking about. So he made me go home and think, what is he talking about, man? I have no clue. Because my concern was that if it wasn't working next year, what do I do to fix it? What is the formula right here so that I can be consistent on an annual basis? And the thing about relationships, trust, exchange of ideas, constructive criticism was born at that moment with Gene Mock.
That's huge. But I also think that you have to give yourself a lot of credit, obviously, to Gene as well, because listen, I played the big leagues for 13 years and the openness of some of my managers was not even close to what you have right here. It's almost like you're such a secure individual. You appreciate those tough conversations because when you have a conversation, it doesn't have to be a confrontation. It could just
Correct.
be an actual confrontation or just an actual conversation. And I think that's kind of the one thing that I've learned, especially here of my last 3, 4, 5 years of being a special advisor with the Yankees. A lot of the kids that I work with are these younger kids. And I try to love on these dudes so much because I want them to know at some point in our relationship, we're going to have a tough conversation. And like you just alluded to a second earlier, if they know that I have their best interest at heart and they know that I care for them, they will listen to me. They won't push me away because this younger generation is different. And we got to figure out how to be able to coach them a little better.
Not everybody takes the time to establish the relationship because you can't get to that point you're talking about unless you have. They will not trust you. They will not trust you. You could have the most pure and sincere intentions in history, but if you have not established that groundwork, that bedrock, it just doesn't get to that point where there's an openness. The player really listens to you. He takes you to heart because I'll give you an example like you just talked about. I thought Davey Martinez was a great bench coach and could become a manager. You know why? Because Davey had the tough conversations. That's what a bench coach should do for a manager. My job, I come in the door, man, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I need to be able to intellectualize the day, have to deal with the front office, media, et cetera, and of course the players. But if something happens in the background that I really don't need to know about, you need to have somebody tough there in that position to take care of the brush fires. Davey was a perfect example of the brush fires because he's not afraid to have a difficult conversation. That might be that and fearlessness are the two greatest components that I want out of my coaching staff. I don't have to be like this brilliant PhD in hitting or pitching or fungo hitting. Everybody thinks they got to be like the best at that. No, they have to be a great communicator. They have to be fearless. And if they could do that, I will take these guys. The tough conversation will follow. If I lie to you, let me say that if I lie to you, you're going to hate. If I tell you the truth, you might not like me for like a week or two. But if I lie to you, you're going to hate me forever.
Forever.
Think about right, forever. So that's what some guys don't understand. So you start dissembling, you get partial truths, you start trying to break it down, and players know. You're players know when it's all BS. Players know when it's sincere, and that's where the ears stay open or they slam shut.
Yeah. Well, speaking about being fearless, right, and establishing relationships, you were a manager. You didn't always have the high budget squads, right? You didn't always have the top tier teams. I mean, other than the 2016 Chicago Cubs, you guys were just amazing and so much fun to watch. But it seems like you always ended yourself up in the playoffs. Listen, man, I remember with the Yankees looking across the line in September back in 2000, 2009, 10, 11. Nobody wanted to play the Rays in September, right? There was just something about that. I just got finished reading Daniel Coyle's Culture Code book.
Yeah.
And there's something that you talk about and there's something that you do. You created these cultures. From the time that you were running things in the minor leagues for instructional league, you just naturally had this ability to create these cultures. That's not an easy thing to do. How do you go about creating those cultures for the people that have no idea what it's like?
Well, first of all, if you've never done it before, people kind of mock that. They don't believe in chemistry, culture, all that kind of things because they've never been in a position to have to do something like that. I think beyond what I just talked about, the building of relationships, the conversations, etc., great listening skills help create the culture because you really have to understand what's going on around you. You have to have an openness, like you suggested. You have to have frank conversations. There's got to be pure. You have to feel pure intentions coming from me to you. There's got to be again this openness about this entire situation that the communication cannot be more fluid. I think that's why probably the glue of building a culture is the open line of communication, the sincere thought that I'm not trying to get over on you. I'm not giving you a line and coming back at me. Because what's going to follow normally is winning. If you get to that point, if you get to the point where you have good players, it's always about good players. And then you establish this openness within your culture. Winning it's going to follow that. And that's where everybody buys in. And that's the buy-in. Once you get to the buy-in where I've always trusted my players. I told them that in my first meeting. You got my trust. Now I have to earn yours. And once it comes back in this direction, heads up, because there's nobody we can't beat. We could try things on a daily basis. We're not worrying about failure. And that's the big part. When people are afraid to lose, you're never going to win. And you really have to establish that because that's part of that fearless nature. Yes. Fortune favors the bold. The meek do not inherit the World Series championship trophy. So you got to get these things in place, excuse me, where players are not afraid taking chances because they know I support when it doesn't work.
Also, too, man, you're right. I mean, it's so nice to have that freeness and that ability to be free. It's like, my wife's an actress, right? And I watch her and I'm in awe of her almost every time I see her on television. I'm like, baby, you look so free. You just look like you could just be whatever you want to be. And she said, Nick, that's because I'm prepared. I know my lines front and back. And because I am prepared for that, I can be free. So the times that I've done some of my stuff, I haven't had my lines written, I haven't had them locked in. I wasn't off book and I was very tense and I wasn't. And she was like, if you know your material, that's when the freeness and the ability really shines and comes out. And it's like what you're talking about, you giving your players that ability to be free and that letting them know that it's okay to fail. It's okay. Right. I don't want you to fear failure by any stretch. Right.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's so nice to hear that, man. I think young managers and young coaches need to hear this stuff. Like, you're going to learn when you mess up. That's just what it is.
Well, everybody wants to control everything, and I don't want to control anything. I want you to control your own career. What you're talking about, there's exactly in the book, and it's on one of my paintings. It's the Uncle Sam. The more freedom given, the greater respect and discipline return. If you feel the freedom to be yourself, you're going to learn your lines because you don't want to disappoint me. You don't want to let me down. So you're going to be disciplined. You're going to be disciplined in your approach to learning your lines. You have a tremendous amount of respect for everybody around you and the person that's basically in charge in that moment. You don't want to let that person down. I never do. Right. Anybody that treats me in that way in my job, they empower me. You're empowered in your job to do your job, and I'm not going to interfere. If you need some help, I'm going to pop my head in there. Or if I see something going off track a little bit, I may say something to you. But overall, this is your gig. It's your job. You got the freedom to do it as you see fit. And I know, I don't believe this. I know you're going to give me greater respect and discipline in return. And that's exactly what you're talking about. What happens is in the game today, and I've talked about it in the book again, is the control factor. Right. Front offices want to control everybody and everything. And my concern with that is when you do that, you're going to inhibit greatness. You're going to get in the way of a player's greatness because you're constantly putting restrictions on that person or that player. I'm sure Joanne feels the same way. She feels she doesn't want to be controlled. She wants to be empowered to do her job and interpret what she's hearing in a manner that then it becomes her. Whatever that role might be, this is actually her. She's not even who she had been. She's this person in that particular moment because she's empowered to the freedom to be that. That's what's missing. And if you're going to manage someday, I really encourage you to do that. You want to empower. You don't want to control. You want to provide freedom because if you do that, I promise you they'll run through. Look what Robbie Thompson's doing right now with the Phillies. That's a perfect example. of the freedom he gave that group and what's happening in return for Robbie.
It's so authentic. I feel like that freedom also creates authenticity. I mean, obviously, you know my personality. You've seen me for decades. There have been so many people in my life that have tried to harness who I am and tried to turn me into something that I'm not. And it took away from my ability. I remember I had a coach in summer ball in college that said, man, you'd be way better of a player if you got on Ritalin or Adderall because you're just too spaced out. So wherever that coach is, I hope you're watching. I hope you're listening to this. But you're right. That freedom and that authenticity, that's what I love about that. And to be able to create that, I mean, you broke a curse that was over 100 years old. And to be able to do that, you don't do that by you. Your players ended up doing that, but you created that sort of boundaries for them to be who they were. And I wish more people had more of an understanding of that. When you give people the power to be who they are, like you said, the word empowering, man, that's what we're trying to do for all people in our lives.
100% correct. I mean, I'm so non-controlling. I'm organized. I got my stuff. I got my stuff together. I'm prepared, as your wife had talked about. And I think that's a big part of why when I walk into a dugout, I don't care what it could be game 7. Of course, you got butterflies. We all do it. If you don't have butterflies, stop doing what you're doing.
Stop doing what you're doing.
just it's over. It's over. Forget about it. So when you walk in that dugout for that game, I have my script, knowing that I have to be flexible during the game, but I have my script. This is theoretically perfect. This is what if this game goes A, B, C, D, F, G, which it never does, but if it does, this is what I got. And then with that, all from 1981 to 2022, all the hay that I put in the barn comes to bear in that moment when I have to do something differently, when the moment requires action. Did you ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell?
Yes, sir. Well, I have not. I know the book. I do know the book.
Well, that really explains intuitive thinking. It also explains why feel and experience and wisdom are important in a leadership role. And I don't think that's being sought after anymore. I think my advice to a lot of guys that have become recent major league managers that really hadn't done it before was to go to the minor leagues, to do 1, maybe 2 years in rookie ball, and go out and be a free agent scout for at least one cycle, like one January to the draft. If you do those two things, your base in regards to what you think, your understanding of what a finished product looks like before it becomes a finished product. Because you've been in the big leagues, you know what that looks like. Now you look like, you know what Devon White looks like when he's 18 years old, playing third base in Idaho Falls, swings and misses at you in batting practice, has these weird little glasses on, and that's what this World Series. He was a World Series MVP. Eventually became. After I saw him as an 18-year-old, at that point, this guy's never going to make it. Of course he was. Nobody ran like him. He had a great arm. He was strong as ever, wiry strong. But I got to see it. And now I have a base to work from. And I think that's where a lot of the guys that are just jumping in a managerial seat, they're missing this again, the bedrock, the base of what it takes to do that particular job, because you're asked to identify or evaluate all the time. And if you don't have something, again, having on to first grade or fifth grade or sixth grade, learning how to do that, that's when the front offices really are going to be more reliant on their education agenda, or what they, right, exactly, as opposed to, because they may ask you, but they're not really listening at that point because you don't have the space.
Right. We've talked so much about books, man. So I got to start jumping into your book, man. Right. I mean, you just finished writing your book, right? And the title of that book is The Book of Joe, Trying Not to Suck at Baseball and Life. And I absolutely love the title of the book, man. I think it's amazing. Obviously, everything that you bring to this world, in my mind, is a positive light. And it's overall just so positive in general. But at this phase of your life, this is when you decided to write the book. Right now was the time to do that.
Yeah, I was asked after the World Series in 2008 to start doing things. I did not have enough cachet at that point. I didn't think to really do that. I didn't have enough background, enough experience. So I waited. Winning a World Series in Chicago is a pretty big deal.
Huge deal, bro.
Right. And after leaving the Cubs, I got together with Verducci and said, listen, I think it's time. And we agreed upon that. And the premise was to compare and contrast managing in the major leagues from the 1980s to present time. And then all of a sudden, here comes a pandemic. I have all the free time that I otherwise would not have.
Sure.
So I rode my bike in an RV park in Mesa, Arizona for 3 months. 3 months with a dictaphone in my pocket, a little fuzzy microphone on a clip on, and I would do about an hour a day, send it to Tom, David Black, our literary agent, and Sean Desmond, who is the publisher at 12. And they would listen, and then they would tell me or ask me to dig down more deeply in certain areas. And that's how this all came about. So 100 hours of taping over like 90 days of riding a bicycle. And I chose the bike because I felt I was able to think better, more lucidly. I was able to formulate better by movement, as opposed to just sitting here like now with a microphone trying to recapture my thoughts from 1981. I found when I was moving, it was much clearer and easier to get across.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, my personality is very similar to your. We are both
Yep.
high energy guys. I'm going to start
Yep.
doing that as well. I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, I never thought just to get out and start moving around, just to get my brain working in the right direction. I mean, that's something I'm definitely going to write down and take note of for sure. It says, and also I got to ask, because it's in the title of your book, right?
Mhm.
Baseball in life. So
Yeah.
what are some of the common lessons or the commonalities that you see between baseball and life?
Well, I mean, right from the very first chapter there, whatever you put out there comes back to you. As an example, do simple better as an example, embrace the target as an example. I mean, these are just things that I've had on t-shirts forever, but whatever you put out there comes back to you is a perfect example. You put positive out into the universe, you're going to get positive in return. If you choose to put negativity out there and pessimism, that's what you're going to get back in return.
Sure.
That was brought to my attention by a lady on an airplane right around 1991 or 92. I was like really upset. I was ready to quit the Angels. I'd been passed over for a job. I'm on an airplane in the middle seat, going to Midland as a hitting coach. And I was probably just dripping with negativity. And this lady all of a sudden said that to me. And I took off my little headset and I said, would you mind repeating that? And she did. And I got off that airplane in Midland, Texas. And I was completely exactly like that person that started in 1981 as a first year manager and scout with the California Angels at that time. It was like energizing. So I've used that to myself in the past, or the more recent past. Whenever you get down a little bit and it's just not working right, remember one thing: whatever you put out there is going to come back to you. Right. As an example. So the book, also talking about the managerial comparing and contrasting, was also, we wanted it to appeal to a wider audience, not just a baseball audience.
Sure.
So totally. I think this has leadership qualities to it. It has, like, from a teacher to their students, from a coach to their players, from a parent to their kids. There's things in there that I think everybody can relate to. So you're getting a somewhat of a baseball history in my particular background, combined with life lessons that I think apply to everybody on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of trying to gain a new audience, I mean, I think that's exactly what I'm trying to do too, right? I'm trying to, let people in a little more. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard talking about, tough things and the whole nine. And I guess, one of the biggest reasons why I started this podcast was to help and to give back. And I always felt that when I could take that field in front of 50,000 people, that I was doing something to brighten somebody's day and to make people feel better. I guess kind of one of the biggest segments of this podcast that we do is a little segment called Unstuck. And, like I said, I mean, not that you're stuck in any sense of the word right now, but you're at a little different phase of your life right now. I mean, people could say you're almost in a little bit of a stuck pattern. So I guess what's next, right? What's next for Joe Maddon, right? How are you working through this phase of your life right now? I'm not saying that you're not living your best life, but you're not a manager anymore, and you are making a little bit of a transition right now. Are there any tips and tricks to going through tough times in people's lives that can help a lot of the people that are listening to this?
Yeah. Eyes open, ears open, mouth shut. I mean, I thought that this book came at the perfect time so that the baseball industry knows exactly how I'm feeling. I would not want to interview for anybody under a false pretense, meaning that, I want analytics, but I don't want it to drive the day. I want baseball to drive analytics and not analytics to drive baseball. So from a professional perspective, the book is perfect. It's almost an interview for anybody that's paying attention. So I think it's going to preclude me from opportunities with certain groups because they're not going to like what I have to say. But I also believe there's going to be a shift coming back to more conventional baseball means. and I'm hoping that it's going to appeal to a smaller segment, the segment that I really want to try to work with and nurture and bring back to the forefront. So from that perspective, eyes open, ears open, mouth shut. I'm not pushing out anything right now. I'm golfing like a freak. My day is golfing, gardening, and grilling. Become a great griller. I know how to do a pizza, an outstanding pizza on my Weber grill, which I'm going to do tonight while I'm watching the World Series game. So it's that, and it's not. I think the trap sometimes that you start pushing and you start trying too hard. I of course we all want to try, but I think you need to wait for things to come to you too.
Right.
And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm putting myself out there, as you said, authentically, openly. There's nothing hidden right here. I've told you exactly how I feel in this particular book. People know me, you've known me, and others do. So my method has always been authenticity, be yourself, throw it out there. And I believe the right thing's going to come back to me. Whatever you put out there comes back to you. Sure. So that's where I'm at with this whole moment right now. I'm complete or satisfied if I don't work in baseball next year. I'm fine with that thought. I really am. I will continue. I have a foundation that we're working with their foundation. There's different things we're doing with that. We actually have food products going out right now. We do golf tournaments. I've done fireside chats for the Hazleton Integration Project, which has now become a national model. So that's part of it too. I got kids, I got grandkids out in Arizona. So my life's pretty complete. And like you said, I think I am living my best life right now because I have time. The perfect schedule is not having one. And that's where I'm at right now. I don't have a schedule. Today, my schedule was to talk to Swish at 11 a.m. and I was really looking forward to that. And then I just called Brian McCann. I'm going to go golf with Brian and the pro Frankie Radish, right? When we get done, that was my schedule. Then I'm worried about tonight. I'm going to make some pizza. My mom's in assisted living. I got to go see Beanie Road. That's a beautiful day. You know, we're so used to thinking that we have to be inundated with travel and what time is BP and what time do I have to meet the press and all this other stuff that we consider important that really is secondary to all the stuff I've been describing to you. And I know that, and I've known that forever, but I'm caught up in my vocation, which is to be a Major League Baseball manager. And I still would like to do it. I would. Sure. And I want to do it for the right folks. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue to nurture everything I just talked about. And I want to become the best version of myself to everybody in my life. My wife, Jay's in the other room right now. That's my goal. That's my goal. And final point, I believe the next right moment is going to come to me.
This has been unbelievable. I think one of the biggest things I'm taking away from this, especially in the last, little bit that you said, I'm taking away your vulnerability. I'm taking away the fact that you are being vulnerable enough to tell people exactly where you're at. And hey, man, this is where I'm at. I don't exactly know what's next. And I think that, we try and plan so many things in the future that sometimes we forget about what the hell's going on right now in the moment. Yeah. So, I mean, your vulnerability right there just hit me in the spot. I got goosebumps all over the place because I feel like for the last couple of years, that word vulnerability has really jumped into my life. And as an alpha meathead, sometimes being vulnerable is not an easy thing to do for me. Okay. But being able to see somebody like you who has been as successful as you have and a little more experiences in life than I have had so far up to my life, but being able to be vulnerable has to be a humongous thing, especially if you want to continue to grow. And move forward.
Absolutely. That is a part of the growth process. That's the only way to be. When you, again, talking about you becoming a manager someday, for me, when I talk to the press, I go Jack Ryan on them. Jack Ryan is the protagonist from the Tom Clancy novels, and Jack Ryan in the book, I think it was Clear and Present Danger, was advising the president on a situation where in the Caribbean, there's a big drug concern or bust, and the dude on the boat was killed. And as it turned out, it was one of the president's best friends ever, right? So, but all the spin doctors wanted to say, I hardly knew the guy. He was just an acquaintance. I might have met him once or twice. And Jack Ryan pops up and he says, no, Mr. President, I would say is not only was one of your friends, he was one of your best friends. And when you run into that moment and be absolutely honest or vulnerable, however you want to describe it, it disarms everything. It absolutely disarms. It's a very disarming moment. And then it's easier for you to go to the next moment. Ernest Hemingway, right? It's in the book. Write one true sentence. when he sat down to write a novel and he get kind of freaked out, he would sit down and he told to himself, write one true sentence, the truest sentence that I know. And you know what happens? The next one pops in your head. That's the best. I mean, that, and when I had to do during the last couple of years, went through the Black Lives Matter, which obviously I was not experienced at any part of that. And I sought counsel from some really brilliant people. And when I sat down to talk to the players via Zoom and all these staff, like over 100 people, I brought that to their attention because they're going to be asked, what do you feel about this? What do you think? And everybody's going to try to think, what's the right answer right here? How am I not going to get in trouble right here? Somebody puts a microphone in front of my face. What do I say? And I told them what I was going to do. I was going to, one true sentence, the truest sentence that I know. I'm going to tell people exactly what I think. Okay. Now, if they don't accept that, that's their problem. That's not my problem. But you're going to get my authenticity. This is what I believe. And if you do that and you always hold on to that one true sentence, everything falls a lot easier. But if you're going to dissemble, give a less than the absolute truth, or just try to appease somebody else, it's never going to work. It's not going to work for you. And so when that microphone's put in front of you, the best way to do it is give them one true sentence.
I love that. I love that, man. One true sentence, man. Skip, this has been absolutely unbelievable, man. I could sit here and talk to you for days upon end, and I'm probably going to, again, the fact that you took enough time to sit down with us today to just spew some unbelievable knowledge on us, man, is absolutely amazing, man. I'm loving the fact that you are living your best life right now. Yeah. You have earned this opportunity. You have earned the life that you are living now. Continue to keep living that amazing life, man. Thank you for so much time that you spent with us for this chat. I think we've learned so much today. And also, one of the biggest things, if you want to be a great coach, you have to nurture an environment where people aren't afraid to fail, and they will eventually become better, right? If you put positivity out in the world, positivity will come back to you. If you want to put negativity out in the world, negative things will come back to you. And if you're ever lost for words, just remember one true sentence, man. And last but not least, man, everybody do yourself a favor, man. Go get my guys Joe's book, right? The Book of Joe, Try Not to Suck at Baseball and Life. Skip, man, you are the man. I'm so blessed to have you in my life. I'm so blessed to know you. And us as listeners today are so blessed to have you on this podcast, man. Love you, brother. I love the fact that you and your family are doing amazing. Enjoy your grandkids. One of these days, me and you're going to get out there on that golf course, brother, and really get after it.
I'm looking forward to listening. I just want, you've been very nice to me in the platitudes, but I want you to know your attitude is infectious. It's always been that way. The teams you were on were very successful, and I saw it from the other side equally. And I've always wanted that too. I wanted that guy on my team. I've always wanted you to be a member of one of the teams that I was working with. I'm going to say never change. I know you never will, but understand that what we need is more of what you're doing right now, more of your method, the way you are. Again, positive and energetic and optimistic. We get too much of the other side, not only in sports, but everywhere. So that is the authentic you. And I know that. So, and I really appreciate that. And anytime you'd like me to pop back in, I would love to. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I tell you what, man, with that backdrop you got back there, man, I'm not leaving that area. The trees are turning. It looks beautiful up there in PA, man. Enjoy yourself, Skip. Enjoy your round today. Thank you so much for being here, my man.
Thanks, Swish. Great to see you, buddy.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at BetterHelp.com/Swisher and get on your way to being your best self. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or even becoming a new parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of your challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient and accessible anywhere, 100% online, which is absolutely amazing. We've talked a lot about mental health on this show and the importance of taking care of yourself mentally. And talking to someone about your mental state is one of the first steps to getting things figured out. Whether it's learning a coping skill, self-empowerment, or dealing with trauma, therapy can help, I can tell you from firsthand experience. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, listen, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, listen, you just switch to a new therapist anytime. It could not be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. I've been in that boat. Learn more, and you can get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Swisher. One more time, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Swisher.
Hey everybody, Ryan Leaf here. We are about to drop 3 bonus episodes for my podcast, Bust, the Ryan Leaf Story, the most honest, transparent, and vulnerable podcast you will hear. Me in front of a microphone taking you through the start to the finish, right here on PodcastOne.
This interview really resonates with me on a lot of fronts, but I think it really relates to the idea of creating a safe space, right? Creating safe spaces. If you want to be a successful group, we've all learned from our guy, Joe, that you have to nurture an environment where people aren't afraid to fail, right? And eventually they will become better at the task at hand. Give them room to grow, and I promise you, people will grow. This not only applies to sports, but even more in everyday life. And it makes me think about my daughters a lot. Now hear me out. If I'm constantly protecting them from failure, they won't learn a thing. If I'm catching them every time before they fall, they'll never know what it feels like to get back up. The one thing that I want them to learn is the power that they have within themselves to get back up on their own, not because of me, but because of them. They will learn from each one of those falls, and I can promise you they will grow from it. Parents, do me a favor. Don't take your kids' experiences away from them. Let them fail, let them learn, and I promise you they will become better. Wow, that's amazing, man. This next brings me to my favorite segment of the show. You know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. People are fucking rad. All right, let's get at this, man. Hey, let me tell you about this grandma, right, who went viral the other day for taking notes on all the Marvel movies so she can be locked in when talking to her grandchildren about each one of them. This right here is bonding 101, man. Do me a favor. Stay hot, Granny. We need more people out there like you big time, man. This makes me miss my grandmother so much. And ma'am, because of the way you're bonding with your grandchildren and the effort you're putting forward, you know what you are? You are fucking rad. Excuse my French. You are freaking rad. My grandma heard that, she would just beat my ass. There's no doubt about it. Anyways, next, let me get on to this group called Cosimo and the Hot Coals, right? This is 5 Italian dudes that have an amazing sound, right? Roaring sounds of the 20s, right? These guys are huge on TikTok. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. It's not necessarily the sound that they come out with, but I think what really got me pumped up was exactly what they're doing. They're in what seems to be almost like an assisted living with a lady, and they're playing her favorite song. The lady's name is Franca. She's 94 years old. And if you can see the view and the look on this lady's face as she's sitting there clapping, as these guys are just jamming out, you guys absolutely made her day, and I thought it was one of the coolest things I saw all week. Cosimo and the Hot Coals, I just want you guys to know, from me to you, you guys are fucking rad, dude. Continue to keep doing what you're doing. Next, we've got my guy, Elias. My guy, Elias, is probably 2, maybe 3 years old. And let me set the scene for you. He's taking a nap in his car seat in the back of his mom's car. Well, as she goes to wake him up, he opens his eyes, and what comes out of his mouth? Ice, ice, baby. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, that song came out in 1990, cuz you were born in maybe 2019, maybe 2020. How do you know that Vanilla Ice was as badass as you do? You know what I figured it out? It's because your mom, Molly. And Molly, because you are putting Vanilla Ice back into your kid and letting him know that one hit wonder song was absolutely fantastic, you are fucking rad, Molly. Continue to keep it going. Now, let this last one right here will really, really pull at your heartstrings right here. Let me tell you about this amazing girl, Millie. This is truly the definition of perseverance. My girl, Millie, only has one leg. And Millie is the Argentine national champion of adapted skating. And if you could see her out there just skating like her heart is on fire with one leg, and when you see the embrace between her and her mother, it will absolutely bring you to your knees. That's what it's all about. It's about going out there and doing everything that you want to do. Millie, you are an inspiration for all of us, sweetheart. Continue to keep pushing forward. Continue to keep being you. And because of what you're doing out there in the world, sweetheart, you are fucking rad, dude. Oh my gosh, you're absolutely amazing. Hey, and also do me a favor, y'all. Hit us up on Instagram at the Nick Swisher Show and let us know who's fucking rad in your community. I'd love to shout them out, give them all the love that they deserve, because we need more people like this in the world, man. All right, now that that's over, call to action, ladies and gentlemen. Bing, bing, bing. Like we talked about earlier, it's all about creating safe spaces. Here's the call to action. Create a safe space for you. And also find one person out there that you can help by creating a safe space for them. Failure is a part of life, and it's a main reason we grow and get better at it. Like my man Joe said, we as humans can't be afraid to fail. And the best mentors and teachers that we have will create those safe spaces for us. Because remember, if we fall flat on our face, we're still moving forward. Man, what an amazing interview. Next week, we have an unbelievable guest lined up for y'all. I cannot wait for you to hear this man right here. He talks about building a strong support system around you. He calls it his very own board of directors. I thought that was a cool way of talking about the closest people to you in your life. Those are people who have stock in you, the people that care for you, and the people that are invested in your success. He also talks about how you can sometimes find a guardian angel in the most surprising of places. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Nick Swisher Show right here, same place, same time, next Tuesday, baby. Can't wait for you guys to be here. Hey, and like we always say at the end of each show, spread that love, y'all. Have a great week.